It was supposed to be just another morning in Tehran. The streets were slowly waking up. Shops were opening, traffic was beginning to build, and people hurried toward their daily routines. Among them was a young woman named Amena Barami. She was only in her mid-20s, full of dreams, ambitions, and a promising future ahead of her. Like many young professionals in the city, she was focused on building her career and creating a better life for herself. But on that morning in 2004, everything changed in just a few seconds. As Amena walked down the street, a man approached her. In his hand was a small container. Before she had time to react, he threw its contents directly at her face. Within seconds, unbearable pain took over her body. The liquid was acid. Her skin began to burn instantly. Her vision disappeared in darkness. She screamed for help as people around her rushed toward her, shocked and horrified by what they were witnessing. That moment would not only change Amena's life forever. It would ignite one of the most controversial legal cases in modern Iranian history. A case that raised a terrifying question. What does justice truly look like? Is it revenge? Or is it forgiveness? This is the story of a woman whose face was destroyed, but whose decision shocked the entire world. Before the attack, Amena Barami was living a life filled with potential. She was studying electrical engineering, a field that requires dedication, intelligence, and determination. In a society where women often had to work harder to prove themselves, Amena stood out as someone who refused to be limited by expectations. Friends described her as ambitious, hardworking, and independent. She had dreams of building a successful career and helping her family. Her life revolved around university classes, studying, and spending time with friends. Like many young people her age, she believed the future held endless possibilities. But there was one person in her life who would slowly become a source of fear. A man named Majid Movahidi. Majid was not a stranger. He had known Amena for some time and had developed a dangerous obsession with her. He repeatedly proposed marriage. But Amena rejected him. Her refusal should have been the end of the story. But for Majid, it wasn't. Instead of accepting her decision, he became increasingly angry and resentful. In many parts of the world, rejection can trigger deep emotional reactions in people who struggle with control and entitlement. And for Majid, that rejection turned into something far more dangerous. He began to believe that if he couldn't have her, no one should. At first, Majid's behavior seemed like persistent attention. But over time, it began to feel threatening. He continued contacting Amena despite her clear refusal. He pressured her to reconsider his marriage proposals. He refused to accept that she had the right to say no. This type of behavior is sadly common in many stalking cases. Psychologists describe it as obsessive relational intrusion, when a person becomes fixated on someone who does not reciprocate their feelings. Instead of moving on, they begin to build anger and resentment. Majid's obsession grew stronger. According to later reports, he began planning something terrible. He wanted revenge. And the weapon he chose was one of the most horrifying tools of violence imaginable. Acid. Acid attacks are particularly brutal. Unlike many other forms of assault, the goal isn't just to hurt someone in the moment. It's to permanently destroy their face and identity. The acid burns through skin, muscle, and sometimes even bone. Victims often lose their eyesight. Many require dozens of surgeries just to survive. And even after years of medical treatment, the scars remain forever. Majid knew exactly what he was doing. He purchased the acid. He waited for the right moment. And then he carried out his plan. On November 3, 2004, Amena was walking to work in Tehran. She had no idea someone was following her. Suddenly, Majid approached. Without hesitation, he threw the acid directly at her face. Witnesses later described the scene as horrifying. Amena collapsed to the ground screaming in agony. The acid burned through her skin almost instantly. Her face, eyes, and upper body were severely damaged. People rushed to help her as she cried out in pain. Someone quickly called for medical assistance. But the damage had already been done. By the time she reached the hospital, doctors delivered devastating news. Amena had lost both of her eyes. She would never see again. The days following the attack were incredibly painful. Amena underwent emergency medical treatment to stabilize her condition. But acid burns are among the most difficult injuries for doctors to treat. The chemicals continue damaging tissue even after the initial attack. Survivors often require years of reconstructive surgeries. Amena was no exception. Over the next several years, she underwent multiple surgeries in Iran and Spain. Doctors worked tirelessly to repair the damage to her face and skin. But no surgery could restore her eyesight. The emotional trauma was just as severe as the physical injuries. Imagine waking up one day and realizing you will never see again. Imagine knowing that someone deliberately chose to destroy your face and your future. For many survivors, the psychological pain can feel overwhelming. But Amena refused to give up. Instead, she focused on something else. After surviving the attack and enduring months of painful recovery, Amena Barami faced a new battle. The battle for justice. The man responsible for the attack, Majid Movahidi, was eventually arrested by authorities. During questioning, he admitted to carrying out the acid attack. His motive was simple and disturbing. He said he attacked Amena because she rejected his marriage proposal. For Amena, hearing those words was devastating. Her entire life had been destroyed simply because she exercised her right to say no. The case quickly drew public attention across Iran. People were shocked by the brutality of the crime. Acid attacks had occurred before, but this case was particularly disturbing because of the deliberate planning involved. The Iranian legal system began preparing for a trial. And soon, the court would consider a punishment rarely seen in modern legal systems. A punishment based on an ancient principle known as qisas. In Iranian criminal law, there exists a principle called qisas, which translates roughly to an eye for an eye. Under this law, victims of certain violent crimes have the right to demand the same injury be inflicted on the attacker. In cases involving murder, it can allow the victim's family to request execution. In cases involving severe bodily harm, it can allow equal physical punishment. When Amena's case reached the court, she made a shocking request. She asked that acid be dropped into Majid's eyes, the same way he had destroyed hers. Her request stunned many people. For Amena, the request was not just about revenge. She wanted the world to understand the seriousness of acid attacks. She wanted a punishment that would make others think twice before committing such crimes. The court reviewed the case carefully. After years of legal proceedings, the judges made their decision. They approved the punishment. Majid Movahidi would be blinded. The sentence would be carried out by dropping acid into his eyes. The world media quickly picked up the story. Some people believed the punishment was justified. Others believed it was too cruel. But according to the law, the final decision would ultimately belong to Amena. She had the power to carry out the punishment. Or forgive him. Years passed as legal procedures continued. Finally, the day arrived when the punishment was scheduled to take place. Inside a hospital room, the atmosphere was tense. Medical staff were present to ensure the procedure would follow the court's instructions. Majid Movahidi lay restrained on a bed. Drops of acid were prepared. And Amena Barami was brought into the room. For years, she had imagined this moment. The man who destroyed her life was now completely powerless. The law had placed his fate in her hands. Witnesses later described the moment as incredibly emotional. The room was silent. Everyone waited for Amena to give the final command. 1 drop of acid in each eye. That was the sentence. But then something unexpected happened. At the very last moment, Amena made a decision that shocked everyone in the room. Instead of demanding the punishment be carried out, Amena said something no one expected. She forgave him. After years of suffering, surgeries, and blindness, she chose mercy. She later explained that she did not want to carry the burden of revenge for the rest of her life. She said she wanted to move forward, not remain trapped in anger. Her decision stunned the entire world. Many people had expected her to go through with the punishment. But instead, she chose compassion. For Majid Movahedi, the forgiveness meant his eyes would not be destroyed. However, he would still face prison for the attack. For Amena, the decision marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. One defined not by revenge, but by resilience. Today, Amena Bahrami's story continues to inspire people around the world. Despite losing her sight and enduring unimaginable pain, she refused to let hatred define her life. Her story raises powerful questions about justice, revenge, and forgiveness. What does true justice look like? Is it punishment? Or is it the ability to let go of anger and move forward? There may never be a simple answer. But Amena's choice showed the world something extraordinary. Sometimes, the strongest act of all is forgiveness.